Welcome back. Welcome back. It has been, I think, quite some time since I have done a solo episode. I've done a lot of sharing of interviews that I've done, which I know have provided you value, but I thought I would just come to you, like friends having a coffee today, which is actually what I have in front of me if you are watching this on YouTube. So welcome back to Mindset Medicine Podcast. And, I thought I would share the trip that I took with you and just talk about some of the observations, lessons learned, life lessons learned. I found that I was able to have a really clear mind while I was away, and so many reasons for that. I realized that there are so many reasons why entrepreneurs are killing their businesses. That was fascinating to see as well. And so basically, the title of this episode today is From Time Zones to Timeless Lessons. So it's going to be a little bit of a reflection today, but I think you're going to find my stories very, very fascinating. So, what I did is we decided that we were going to be proactive this year, and we were going to book this summer vacation way back in January, which I'm really glad we did because we've never really done that before. We have allowed our businesses to dictate our schedule. How many of you have done that? And forgive me, my voice is a little bit hoarse because once I got back to Canada, the allergies just took over me within 24 hours. But so how many of you are entrepreneurs and tell me, nod your head, say, oh my gosh, I know what she's talking about, where you have allowed your schedule to be dictated by your work, right? Oh, I don't want to book that vacation. What if I'm busy? I have literally done that for 17 years in real estate. So we decided, my husband and I, that we're just going to go ahead and book it. We were going to book our trip to Cyprus, and we have not been back in 9 years. And I say back if you have been following, I did live there for 16 years. My husband is from there. I'm actually half Cypriot and I'm half Irish, but I've grown up in Canada. So we said it's time, right? It's time to see my in-laws. It's time to see the relatives. It's time to see our friends that are there. So the beauty of traveling that far is that we always want to stay somewhere halfway. And halfway is usually somewhere along the line of England, or it will be France or Germany or Italy or Spain or Portugal. That's kind of what we call the halfway mark. So we decided that Paris would be a beautiful stopover. And it happened to be my birthday at the exact time that we were going to be landing. So how perfect would celebrating my birthday in the beautiful city of Paris be? Now, funny enough, we did not even realize that the Olympics would be going on in Paris this year. I know that's what happens when you get carried away in business, is you tend to focus on that and not necessarily on everything that's happening in the world. But lo and behold, Olympics were being held in Paris when we were going to be going. I was not deterred at all. Didn't bother me. We looked for our we found some beautiful hotels. I knew where I wanted to stay. I knew I wanted a beautiful view. I knew I had wanted a balcony in Paris because I had seen these wonderful photos on Instagram and TikTok of people who had these gorgeous balconies overlooking the Arc de Triomphe on Champs-Élysées and overlooking the Eiffel Tower. And I thought that would be phenomenal. So that's what we did. The criteria was a hotel with a balcony, looking at a view, and I found it. I found this lovely 5-story hotel, and it did have the beautiful balconies with the iron iron gate, at the end. They are very narrow, but it did overlook the Arc de Triomphe, which is right on Champs-Élysées. It's that beautiful arc that most people see in photos. So gorgeous room. And there was air conditioning. So if you're ever thinking of visiting Paris in the summertime, just know that 50% of the buildings and restaurants and shops and so on actually don't have air conditioning because they typically don't need it. Paris will have, a heat wave for 1 or 2 weeks of the summer, and the rest of it's quite cool. We were lucky that we did actually find a hotel that had air conditioning, so that was good. But of course, we had our balcony doors that open, and so as soon as our eyes opened every morning, we opened those doors, fresh air coming in. It was just, I can't even tell you. It was just so gorgeous. So we toured around Paris, and we walked, 20,000 plus steps a day. We really wanted to take in the landmark. I wasn't into waiting for 2 to 3 hours to get into some of the landmarks, but just to see them. What most people don't know is when I was in university, I was studying, I studied English literature as an undergraduate, but my master's degree was in educational technology. But the electives that I chose along the way were in art history. So of course, the painters in Paris, Renoir and Claude Monet, and these beautiful, this beautiful art that we have known to come and love, so much of it has come from Paris, and the buildings and the Notre Dame and so on. So it was great. Being able to see these beautiful landmarks that I had studied for so many years, and spending time and walking around with my husband and sitting at these cafes. And, it took some getting used to that. When you sit at a cafe, you are sitting side by side and everyone is people watching. So I actually loved that. It was just so different and special. And it was so nice to see how relaxed everyone was. And I mean, even the residents, the French people, we would see them just relaxing in the middle of a day. You could see they had their work clothes on. But what I didn't see was the stress on their faces that I see in people in North America. And I'm trying not to make a generalization, okay? Because I am one of those people that likely, had you seen me in February, March, or April, you would have seen the same type of stress on my face because I was working a lot. I have been working a lot for the last year. When I wrote my book, that took months. My book on AI, if you haven't read it, it is on Amazon, AI Secrets for Business Success and Life Hacks. And so, but that's what I didn't see. They were very relaxed, and it was in the middle of the day, very stylish, which is what I had heard about Paris. Everyone walking around, even if they were just going for a walk, were very, very stylish. So that was so nice to see as well, because I find, here in North America, everyone seems to go around in yoga pants all the time, whereas yoga pants are almost frowned upon in Europe, because when I lived there, you were expected to dress up a little bit when you went out in public. Now, that may rub people the wrong way because they're like, well, why can't I be comfortable? Why can't I wear whatever I want? Of course you can. But I've always loved style. And I've loved the fact that you can, just dress up a little bit if you want to go to the supermarket or to a cafe. You don't have to go in yoga pants all the time. So the overwhelming feeling that I got from Paris is that it really is this city of romance and culture and just enjoying life. I really didn't find misery. I didn't find rude people. The service was phenomenal. restaurants and bars and cafes. They want your service, and they will do their very, very best to please you. We went on a cruise down the Seine River, which was so beautiful. It was a boat that had a glass roof so that we would be able to see the Eiffel Tower lit up. The Eiffel Tower lights up just after 9 p.m. And so, it was this ride, and you got to see, all the different building structures and ages and intricate detail on the bridges that you were going under. And the food was phenomenal. It was a French menu. So that was lovely. It was about a 6-course meal. And the service on there was also just wonderful. And once the sun went down and the Eiffel Tower lit up, we were able to go outside onto the deck of the boat. And, just standing there in the Seine River on a boat, looking up at this beautiful Eiffel Tower that's glistening, and the Olympic rings were on it. It's like a fairy tale, it's, and you really stand there understanding how grateful and blessed you are to have this experience. And when I think about that, and I think about the people who don't experience these things, what I know is that I have worked really hard for everything that I do and have, and for who I am. And so it hasn't come to me. It has never been given to me. I have worked extremely hard, 2 and 3 jobs at a time, for everything that I have. And I mean everything. Nothing has been given to me on a silver platter. Nothing. So to stand there and know that I can stand there because of all the hard work that I have put in to everything that I've done, and to the opportunities that I keep going after, and to the risks that I take all the time in innovation. I mean, when I wrote my book on AI, I didn't know that it would do well. I didn't know if it wasn't going to do well. I just wrote it because I felt it would help people, right? Help people to understand what this AI thing is and how it can enhance your business so that you could be on a vacation and actually detach from the world, because, things are still happening, emails and so on. So it was really a moment of gratitude, just, and also the fact that I'm alive and I get to experience this, because as you know, in my history, I may not have been so lucky after my heart attack and triple bypass surgery and stroke and paralysis later on. So much has happened. And there I am, 17 years later, standing on a cruise in the middle of the Seine River, looking at the Eiffel Tower glistening. So that was the first part. We then moved on to Cyprus after 4 days, and very hot. Cyprus is a very hot Mediterranean island. So the temperatures were just over 40 every day. A lot of humidity by the seaside where we were staying, but it's very beautiful. It's a very dry country, although humidity has come in. So let's talk about what it means to be 7-hour time difference away from where you are, and what that means on a daily basis. So what it meant for me is, whenever I am home in Toronto, social media and my phone and my computer are very prevalent in my life. They're always on, and I'm always attached to them. But what happened when I went to Europe was that with a 7-hour time difference, there is no one messaging me at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, which is what the time would be when I would be waking up. So you find yourself after day 1 and day 2, realizing like, oh my gosh, there's actually silence on social media. There is silence on my phone for 7 to 8 hours all day long, which means I can actually detach and just do what I want to do. And there were days where I sat back and I thought to myself, but why does it have to be like that when I'm home? Why do I have to be attached to all of the social media and my phone and my computer? So here I was waking up every morning, and we would go directly into the Mediterranean Sea and we would swim for a little bit. Then we would come out, dry off and change, and then we would go and have breakfast. Some days we would actually go back out and go back in the sea. And all this, I didn't even bring my phone with me. My phone was in a bag, or it was, left in a room. Then I realized that my connectivity was actually very weak, and the way my service is in Toronto wasn't picking up on the service area in Europe. And so therefore, I just couldn't do anything with my phone because I wasn't getting any service. The first few days, this concerned me. After that, I said, no, let's take advantage of this. And the feeling of detachment from all of that technology for most of the day, every day, was so freeing. I can't even emphasize how wonderful it was, because here's what began to happen. I am now getting to be with my thoughts. I now can think about things clearly. I'm no longer influenced by things that I'm reading or listening to, right? These are now original thoughts based on what I'm observing, experiences, talking to people. And when you're in a country that is full of history and you look at, different things, so much starts to come through your mind, and you start to actually have original thoughts again. And I really want to focus on this for a moment, because what I've realized over the years is that most people no longer have original thoughts anymore. We see something on social media, and so we mimic it, or we adapt what someone else has said, and then we create a post based on that. But what if we start going back to our own original thoughts from observations and experiences? And that can only happen when we detach from our phones and technology for a little while. Now, don't forget, I love AI. I love technology. But I think that there needs to be this balance between the two. So here's what I did when I got home this week. So this morning I went swimming in my pool, and my typical habit in the mornings here is I will put in my earphones, I will put on a podcast, and I will be passive, and I will swim, or I will run in the pool. But it's all done very passively because I am listening to someone else, which is great to stimulate some new ideas as well. However, this morning I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run with my own thoughts. I'm going to think about this podcast that I want to do today. I'm going to think about what I want to talk about on this podcast. And I also want to think about the webinar that I'm going to be holding on mindset and business. So it really was a very refreshing experience. And I do hope that if you're listening, you do try this. And when I say detach, I mean completely. And I know that it is very hard at the beginning, but because I was forced into it, one, having a 7-hour time difference, two, just not having the connectivity, I just had to adapt. Something else I realized was that my business was still able to function, because before I left Toronto, I let everyone know what hours I was available to get back when I knew I would be in my hotel room, for example. When I knew I would be sleeping, I did give people windows of time that I was able to respond. And everyone was very respectful of that. And so I was still able to respond to my clients once I was back in Wi-Fi in the hotel. I was able to still, I had closings. As I'm in real estate, I still had house closings. I was still able to take care of those. But everything was set in a very organized way because I set the expectations with everyone of when I would be able to respond to them and when I wouldn't. So that was all a very wonderful, wonderful relief and a growth spurt for me, knowing that it is possible to detach. It is possible to be on the other side of the world, still have your business functioning, not have connectivity all day, and everything still runs beautifully. So I'm going to go on to the next part, which was sort of the personal growth and reflective part of this trip. So when you have been away from a country for 9 years, and it's a country that you do have an attachment to, you often wonder when you visit again, have I changed? Have they changed? Or maybe no one has. So what I realized is how much I have changed and how much the way that I react to situations has changed and the way that I see people and situations have changed. When I lived in Cyprus, I believe I was a very reactive person. I tended to take things very personally. And I felt as though, I actually was always being judged, right? A small society, a small island, by no fault of their own, they just are like that. Small towns, small cities, small islands, they are very judgmental and they will be very critical. So the old me, the previous version of Katharine, let's call it 1.0, would have been upset when I heard this. So I went to a family gathering and a lady came and sat with me, and with good intention in her heart, I'm sure, she sat with me and she held my hand and she looked at me in the eyes and she said, "My darling Katharine, you are the perfect candidate for Botox." So I sat for a moment, right? And then, you think to yourself, okay, am I Katharine 1.0 or 2.0 or 3.0? And, I actually knew that would happen. I think I have gotten to know people so well and over the years that it wasn't a surprise. It was more of a surprise that it actually happened exactly as I had imagined it would. So I looked at her, and in as sweet as a voice as she had told me, I said, "Thank you so much for your suggestion. However, I don't put poison into my body. I have spent 17 years making sure that I don't need to take any medications. I don't even take Tylenol. I live very healthy. I don't put anything that would be detrimental to my body inside my body. And that includes Botox or anything else for that matter." And I said, my blood tests are excellent. And the fact that I have gone through so many different health challenges and I don't take medication at the age of 52 is pretty phenomenal. I said, I'm very healthy. So thank you for your suggestion, but I'm fine. And I will choose to age gracefully. And at first she was just staring at me. Maybe she couldn't believe what I had said. But then she just started talking about all of her health issues and what she has gone through and is going through and so on. So although well-intentioned, had I not evolved in my mindset and in understanding, who I am and how I have evolved and having the confidence to know what it is that I want in life and what I see myself as, that would have bothered me. It really would. And I'll be honest, the first 5 minutes I was like, okay, I have lines on my forehead. I've been through a lot in life. And then after that, I thought, it's okay. It's all right. She was trying to be well-meaning, I'm sure. So at that moment, I realized my growth over the years and how much my study of mindset and how much everything I have gone through and all of the health challenges I have overcome year after year after year have really moved me to a different level and just allow me to not be upset by these types of comments or whatnot over the years. What I did allow me to realize, though, is that some people are still in the same patterns of behavior as they were 9 years earlier. And that's just a lack of education. It's a lack of experiences and having the opportunity to expand all of that. There is that wonderful saying, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that even if you live in North America, you can still be in that same box of whether you live in a small town or a large city. If you are always around the same people, having the same experiences, talking about the same things, you will never move beyond that, right? We stay in this very comfortable box. And that comfortable box is easy. And it doesn't include risk. It doesn't include heartache. It's just there. And that's a box I've never been able to live in. I have found it very difficult to stay as is or the status quo. I have a need to grow and expand who I am and become the very highest version that I can be. And I believe that during this trip, the people who spoke with me realized that. And in watching my videos, and they've watched who I am, they just weren't quite sure how to interpret me while I was actually there in front of them. And so that was an interesting experience on its own. The third point of growth that I realized was the reality of our mortality. I went to see an aunt who is very dear and special to my heart. As a child, I went to Cyprus twice on my own when I was a child and traveled as a 12-year-old by myself. And then I did it again when I was 16. And I stayed a lot of time with this one aunt of mine and my cousin who has now passed, unfortunately, from cancer. But this particular aunt spoke no English and I spoke no Greek as a child and my teenage. And even when I moved to Cyprus, I did not speak Greek or the language, but yet I would stay with this particular aunt. So she would always, do sign language and she would hold things and explain things to me. She taught me how to cook Greek food. She taught me how to clean a house because she told me if I knew how to clean a house, I would find a good husband and I would be a good wife. Very traditional thinking. But I really enjoyed my time with her. So leading up to my visit with her, the relatives in my family had all been telling me, she's not the person you remember. She's not the same. She has dementia. She won't remember you. It was very, very negative. And I know that they were just trying to maybe warn me, but I preferred to see her for myself and to experience her for myself in whatever state that she would be in. So we get to the clinic where she is staying, a long-term palliative healthcare, I would guess you would call it. And she was sitting in the chair. I didn't say anything. I just stood in front of her and I smiled. And immediately her face lit up. And in Greek, she said to me, Katharine mu, which is my Katharine. And she said, I cannot believe you're standing in front of me. I can't believe this. This is wow. And she knew exactly who I was. And she looked at my husband and she said, oh, you're her husband. He said, yes. And she said, you know, we spent so much time, good times together. She remembered the times that I had stayed with her. She remembered, and you know, when you have dementia, you go in and out of present and past memories. But looking into her eyes, which were so clear, and her remembering, you know, that I had stayed with her. And she said to my husband, you know, when she was young and she would come and stay with me, all the neighbors used to say, who is this pretty young girl who's staying with you? So, you know, it was so heartwarming to see all of that life in her talking to me. But at the same time, when I had to leave after 30 minutes, it was heartbreaking because you're looking at this wonderful woman who you won't see again because she's further along in age. And I know because of the dementia. And, you know, when you are in a facility like that, it really doesn't add to your longevity. We all know that. We know that there are viruses and there are infections that they can get when living in these facilities. So that was really hard, knowing that I'm not going to see her again. But it makes you realize just how much we should cherish the times that we are speaking to people, not just when someone is older or has dementia, but any time you have the opportunity to speak to someone who you really care about. Just take the time and look at them in the eyes. Speak to their hearts. Speak from your heart. You don't actually know if you're going to see that person again. So that was a life lesson for me on mortality. And if I were to move that lesson over to business, what I would say is when you are running a business and, you know, this is your baby. If you're an entrepreneur, your business is your baby. And people don't look at it that way. They don't look at it that this is something that you have built. Why would you just let it go? Why would you not do everything you could to help it, just like a person who's aged? Why would you not do everything you could to make their life as happy as possible all the way to the end? So when looking at your business, and my webinar is going to be talking about this, what experience are you creating over and over for people? Does your heart come out in your business with people? Or are you running it in a very cold fashion? Because people know if you care, and people will understand the type of business that you are running based on how you are doing it. So that's just one aspect of what I'm going to be talking about in my webinar. And also how to create this beautiful, consistent business so that people will always keep coming back. So there's that little relatability between mortality of life and the mortality of your business. Because the mortality of your business is based upon your mindset. the mortality of an entrepreneur's business is based upon your mindset. Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Are you cherishing the business that you have, or do you take it for granted, just like people? Do you understand how important it is to be financially literate when running your business? Or are you just running it and you're just like an employee of your own business? So I'm going to talk about all of that in the webinar that will be coming up, and it will be free because I want to help you to increase, improve, thrive, and revive the businesses that you are running. Just like I would do when I see someone in front of me who needs a little smile and spark of life in their eyes, like my aunt did. So let's go on to the fourth life lesson and observation that I noticed while I was away. And this was the power of social media. Here's what happened one night. It was dark. And I mean, it was dark on the street that we were walking down. And my husband and I decided, because our flight, we would have to leave the town at 4 a.m., that we would go and we would get some yogurt parfaits, something to tie us over until we could actually eat breakfast at a reasonable hour at the airport. So we walked down this dark road because I knew there was a bakery at the end of it right by the sea. And as we're walking, sort of cutting through the parking lot to get to this bakery, all of a sudden, this lady pops out and says, "Katharine, hi." Now remember, I'm in a seaside town in Cyprus, 7-hour difference. And all of a sudden, this person is in front of me saying, "Hi, Katharine, it's been so long." I had not seen this lady in 20 years, not even in the 9 years since I had last visited, but in 20 years from when I had lived there. And she has been following me on social media since everyone's been on Facebook, basically. And she could see from Facebook. Sorry, I just need to take a sip of my coffee. She had seen from Facebook that I was staying in the area. And she came and she told me about her life and what she's been doing, and that she's been following me. And she said, "You see, I've got a positive mindset." I said, "This is so wonderful. I'm really happy to see you." And she had said that she had seen me in the sea that day, but was too afraid to come up and talk to me. And I said, "But why?" And she said, "Well, I'm not sure, but I was just too afraid to come and talk. But now," I said, "now is the time. Here she is standing in front of me. It's meant to be. I need to come and talk to her." So this is the beauty of social media and the wonderful things that can happen. And when we went and saw my husband's friends, who have been long life friends of his, all of them had been watching my videos. No one had ever commented on any of my videos over the years, but they had all been watching them. And they knew that I talk about mindset. They knew I had been talking about AI. They knew I had been in real estate. So these connections that we make on social media, when we put ourselves out there, as I have over the years, doing video like I am doing right now, they keep our connections. And this is the good part. These are the advantages of putting yourself out in front of people, showing people who you are, allowing them to decide if they want to know you, like you, and trust you. And in my case, allowing me to coach them, whether it's on their mindset, on their business, being an entrepreneur, which I have been for 30 years, starting my businesses in Cyprus and expanding businesses in Canada. So the other side of that is the influence and the perception that is created when you do go on social media. So I see a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs don't put themselves out there on social media because they don't want people to know what they're doing, or they don't want people to see their lives and so on. And I have been saying the same thing over and over from the time that I started doing video on Facebook and Instagram. What I always explain to people is that you get to control what people see. You get to control the images, the videos, how people are going to see the content that you put out there. You get to control that. So to think that you don't have control is silly, because you do. But if you own a business, you have to be in front of the consumer. It's necessary for the consumer to get to know you. How else will they decide if they want to do business with you? So what all of this has helped me to understand is that we can have a multifaceted identity on social media. I can be known for real estate, which is what I've done for so many years, but I can also be known for mindset, because that is what has brought me to where I am today. It has brought me the success that I have. It has allowed me to be able to go to Europe for 3 weeks and still have run a business. It has allowed me to coach people. So how do we do that? How do we get to the point where we can go through so many health challenges, have been down at the bottom, and have come back up? How do we move countries, start over, and in just 17 years have owned multiple businesses that are all doing well? Have children who are a success, have a marriage that has lasted 29 years. How does all that happen? And it comes down to the mindset and how we react and how much we are willing to grow. I'm also going to talk about that in the webinar I have coming up. So finally, all of this wonderful trip just gave me so much insight into what growth really means, what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to watch some people kill their businesses because of 3 things that they are doing. 3 things. And I've narrowed it down to these 3 categories because over and over, it's what I've observed, whether I was in Europe or whether I was in Paris or whether it's in Toronto or whether it's the people I coach in the US. It's these 3 things that entrepreneurs are killing their business with. Are you wondering what they are? Then stay tuned for the webinar that I'm going to be doing, because I'm going to be talking about the 3 things that you are doing that are killing your business, and the 3 bold moves that you can make today that will stop you from killing your business, and you will actually turn it around and start to thrive and survive any type of market. And you can start doing them today. So that is coming up. So look for that link to sign up early for that webinar, which will be coming up. I invite you to continue watching and following along. I am rebranding a lot of what I'm doing. I've started a type of university where there are many, many courses, and I'd say 50% of them are free. If you are interested, send me a message and I will let you know where those are being housed right now. I'm in the process of moving everything into one place, and it will be a business and mindset university. Everything you need will be there under one roof. So I hope you have enjoyed this recap of my wonderful holiday, I have come back with a different mindset in how business can be run holistically. I am a huge proponent of not waiting until I'm 80 and retired to start traveling and enjoying life. I'm not doing it. I have watched too many people get to the point of retirement at 60, 63, or 65. And at that point, they want to start traveling and enjoying life. But then guess what happens? Health issues start, because it's a natural way of life that different parts of your body may start to get weaker and need help. I refuse to get to that point to start enjoying life. So follow along, because I'm going to show you a different way of approaching life so that you don't get to that point. You get to start it earlier. And that's what I'm going to be doing. And it started in the last 3 weeks that I've been away. And it started in January when I was in Costa Rica. And it's just going to continue. So I look forward to talking to you again next week. I will have another really brilliant topic, but stay tuned for the webinar, because it is one that you're not going to want to miss, as well as the link to my business and mindset university. Bye for now. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Mindset Medicine. Remember, every step you take toward building a resilient mindset and creating harmony in your life will get you closer to your dreams and that transformation that you've been looking for. If today's episode hit home for you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback is our fuel. Spread the love. Share this podcast with friends and family. Tag me on Instagram at Katharine Loucaidou Coaching. And if you're looking for more tips and resources, head over to katharineloucaidoucoaching.com. Stay connected, stay inspired, and keep living your very best life with harmony and purpose. And until next time, my friends, live boldly with purpose.